Today I'm going to do a video for a friend. They brought one of these type grinders. They're only cheap. They're out of China. They're only for 3/8 low profile, say on MS170, MS180, something similar to that. They're limited in the controls that they've got. You've got no head adjustment. The head is angled at 60 degrees. That is referred to the top plate cutting angle. Now these are made in China, and I've actually got one that I brought 17 years ago, which is this blue one here. And it's got GMC, for those people that remember Global Machinery Company. It's a brand that was here in Australia, and typically it was always blue in colour. But this is identical. This, if you look at the front, you can see they're exactly the same. Different colour. They're all made in China, same company. And even if you look at the side, exactly the same grinder. Now, I had that 17 years ago and it still works perfect today. So why did I buy another one? It was on special, so I just thought I'll have a spare one. The wheels, now the price of these in Australia is around about $60, but the wheel's about $17, the grinding wheel. And the best part about the grinding wheel is it's made, I think it's resin bonded, very, very fine, about 100 grit. It leaves a beautiful finish. It's only suitable for small chainsaws. As I said, the head is fixed at 60 degrees. So that's the angle that what we refer to. That angle is the top plate cutting angle. And what that's for people who don't know that, that angle leaves an edge on the tooth. Sorry, that's the wrong tooth. That's a hexagonal. So your chainsaw tooth that's on your MS170 or MS180 will look like this. It'll be a semi-chisel. And this angle here, the grinding wheel will come down on this face here, this beveled face here. Plus with the radius on the wheel, it'll make this little C shape like that. So that's that angle. The other angle, when you look on top of a chainsaw, this is referred to the top plate angle. And that's done on here. Now, when you look at a chainsaw tooth, this is a right tooth because we view a left and a right tooth from the back. So this is a right tooth and a left tooth. The cutter will be the opposite direction of that. So it'll be on this side with the slope going down. So that angle is 30 degrees. And if we zoom in, we'll zoom in here, and you can see the degrees. We'll get a bit closer, that's better. A 0 in here, which you'll never use. And you've got left and right, but this is the opposite. So when you set this here on the left side, you'll be doing the right hand tooth. When you set this to the right side on 30 degrees, you'll be doing the left-hand tooth. And there's an adjustment knob underneath. Can't see it unless I go down like this. And there's the adjustment knob there underneath. And you tighten it up that way. So that is your top plate adjustment angle. And as I said, that will adjust this angle here. So your brand new chain that you get from Stihl on semi-chisel will be set at 30 degrees. So 30 degrees on the left, 30 degrees on the right. There is another adjustment here. All as this does, that the chain sits in this guide rail and you push the chain behind the tooth behind the backstop, and you adjust this so that it just touches the grinding wheel. We'll go through that. When you put your chain in here, you've got this locking mechanism. Now this locking mechanism actually pulls out, this pulls out, and you can it's like a ratchet. You can actually put it in different positions. So if you lock it down and it's not tight enough, you can pull this back and move it and it will go further. So that's a good little system, that. So that's the way that that works. So we'll demonstrate that when we put a chain on. At the moment, I've got a chain soaking in petroleum. One of the good ways is to use oven cleaner if you can get a bit of caustic soda. But if you don't have caustic soda, just use petroleum. Reason that I suggest that you clean your chain, that your chain will be full of oil and rubbish, and the last thing you want to do is get oil and grease in this wheel, because if you get a lot of oil and rubbish impregnated into this wheel, it'll become very, very dirty and will generate more heat than you need. So to keep this wheel clean, clean your chains before you use them on the grinder and dry them thoroughly. So what we'll do now, we'll just take the chain out, dry it all, and we'll get into the grinding details. So we dried the chain's nice and clean, we put it in there. Only one other thing to mention, that there's two mounting bolts here, and you can mount it onto a bench, or what I did was get a little bit of block steel like that and drill 2 holes, and I put it in a vise. So you can see there's the square steel there, bolt goes through there, but you can mount it any way you want. So anyway, the chain's been put in there. I've set this up on 30 degrees. So on the left side, it's set up to 30 degrees, but we're doing the right side of the tooth, which is this side here, so that if we zoom in there, you can see that this is the right side and this is the left side too. So we're doing a right-handed tooth. Now, first thing you do is mark your chain with texture, because when you start grinding, you want to know when you're finished. Now, there's 2 adjustments that you need to do, and that's this back stop, that when you pull the grinding wheel down, you have to adjust. There's an adjustment at the back here, this knob. Now this knob at the back adjusts the head. Now the head, I have to lower it down until it touches. So what we need to do is just bring this chain up into the right position. Now we use this nut here, and I just want to adjust this head, the wheel. There's the wheel. You can see me adjusting the bolt on top. You can see this rising up and down. So you just want the wheel sitting in the bottom. So just have it just sitting in the bottom. It's easy to set up on a brand new chain. What you've got to make sure of is that your grinding wheel doesn't sit down below this point on the tooth. You don't want to be grinding down here. So you only want to be grinding no more than about where that black line is. So you'll see that on the tooth. You don't want to be grinding any more than that point there. So your grinding wheel is now set. The next thing you need to do is set this back stop so that if you hold this in one hand and rotate the wheel, you can hear it scraping. So that's, we'll just lock that lock nut. That's ready to go. This closes the rails so that the tooth can't move. So we'll just check everything again. It's barely touching. So what we can do now, we may have to do a minor adjustment on here. So we'll have a look. Needs a little bit more, so we'll just lift that up. Turn this knob just a little bit, lock it back down. The biggest mistake people make is bringing this down and holding it like that. You never ever grind the tooth because you'll overheat it. You bring it down off and on, off and on, off and on, nice and slow. And as you can see by the sparks, there's only a few sparks. Now we'll just have a look at that tooth. I want to show you what it looks like. Not enough. Don't know whether you can see it or not, but no, that's not good enough. Needs a little bit more. Once we set it up, so we need to adjust. We need to go back. Just adjust that a little bit more like that. Lock it back into position. We'll just have a look at that. A little bit hard to focus on the camera. That's better. Just a little bit more and that'll be it. It should look nice and shiny, the tooth. And we'll do another one. Just have a look at this one. That's not bad. Tooth looks nice and shiny. Just a little bit more on the top edge. I'm only doing this very slow so you get the idea of it. You see, it's not, I can keep my finger on there, so we just want to have a look at the tooth again, make sure it should be really good. Very hard to get a focus. There it is. That's about as good as what you're going to get. Little bit on that corner still. We'll probably just adjust this a little bit more and that'll be perfect. We'll just do another tooth. Yeah, that's pretty much spot on now. See whether you can see that. There it is, look at that. That's nice and sharp. You can feel that. That is sharp. And you can see how, when we talk about before, you don't want to be grinding any deeper than that. That's perfect. So now just keep grinding that side until it's finished. So it's just a matter now of grinding until we finish. What I'll do is I'll grind the whole chain up, and then we'll get back to the other side. So we sharpened the chain up, and it really came up really well. We'll just see whether we can zoom in there and see. There it is there. Look, it really did come up well. All the teeth are the same. I think you could see that nice and shiny. It's ground really well, and it's sharp. You see how it grabs hold of my finger. It'll dig in, it's sharp. So that's sharp. So okay, we put the chain back on. It's all been sharpened. And we'll go back to the red marker. Somewhere there. There it is. There's our red marker that's where we started, where the red marker. So what we'll do the left side too. So that means that we need to rotate this to the 30 degrees on the right side to do the left tooth. So there it is there, 30 degrees. Lock up the bottom of the wheel. Now, you need to bring the grinding wheel down, and just to make sure that it's touching in the tooth. It feels like it's a little bit too much. I might have to just back it off. Still feels a little bit too much. I just don't like grinding too much off a tooth. Okay, that's my starting point. I think I'm going to have to adjust it. We'll just start it up. It feels like we need a little bit more. We'll just have a look at that. Actually, that doesn't look too bad at all. Let's see if we could zoom in there. We'll just do another one. You just got to learn to take your time doing this. Just lock it back into position. Let's just have a look at that. Make sure that that's okay as well. What we'll do now, it looks okay, maybe just a little tad, we'll just take a little bit more off it. I think it could just have a little bit more. One of the corners, it just looked like it could have a little bit more, so I'll just adjust it, just that, not even a quarter of a turn, maybe 1/8 of a turn. Just see what that looks like. I'd rather take me time and get it right. Don't rush into it. This is one of the mistakes people make. They tend to go too fast. That looks a lot better. The depth looks all right too, so it's going down to here, so, and it's sharp. So now we'll just do all of those teeth. So every time that you do sharpen a chain, just take your time in setting it up. And just make sure that you go off, on, off, on. Light tap. Then when you finish the chain, you inspect the chain. And if you find any teeth need redoing, then just do it again. It doesn't take long. And these may be a really cheap grinder, but they do a bloody good job. I've never had any trouble grinding a chain with this type of grinder. Yeah, sure, it's not a professional grinder, but it's certainly good enough for small chains. And you'll get used to flicking this lever backwards and forwards because it really does lock the chain in, this little lever here. Really does lock it in and make it nice and tight so it doesn't move. Look, I finished grinding the chain, but I'm just running it through one more time. Barely touching it. Puts a beautiful finish on it. Only takes about another minute. I just run it through one more pass. Hardly any sparks, very lightly. You end up with a beautiful sharp chain. Now a chain, small chain 16-inch like this, probably cutting soft wood, probably get away with 4 or 5 hours continuous cutting. Stop starting a little bit. You can always tell if your chain needs sharpening. It doesn't take long to get used to it because a chainsaw won't cut sawdust. If it's sharp, it'll cut chips. Little tiny chips rather than fine sawdust. The moment you're cutting fine sawdust, needs sharpening. Anyway, that's all been done. That's finished. Now, the next part of this chain is to check what we refer to as the rakers. We're going to check this height on the raker gauge. So we're going to set that all up. This is beautiful and sharp. So just inspect it, and even if you have an inspection, it's beautiful. It's nice and sharp. So the chain's all been sharpened and really came up well. There it is there. You can see it all nice and shiny. Very, very sharp. Here's a good view of it there. This corner is very important. But the most important thing is that the grinder grinds it uniform. So yeah, as you can see, the grinder's done a really good job. You see a few little burrs on there, but remember, this is a very close-up. This is very close-up. So you see a few of these little burrs. But yeah, it's pretty good. Come up well. So the next thing to do is that we put the chain on the chainsaw, but in this case here, I'm just going to demonstrate on this bar here, is that the other thing that you need to do is to check the actual rakers. So on any chainsaw chain, you'll see this little metal piece right in front of the tooth. And the distance from here to here, the height differential, is 0.65 of a millimetre. And that's what this gauge is designed to do, to measure 0.65 of a millimetre. So we place this on top of the tooth. Sits on top of about 4 teeth, and you can see the raker in the little window. Now, if that raker requires any filing or it protrudes through that window, it's just a matter of getting your file and running it over the top. But this is a brand new chain. I only ever got used a little bit, so it's not really going to take anything off. But this is how you do it. You place it, you hold it with one hand, you place it over the top, you just have it so that it sits up against the gauge and run the file over the top. So it's pretty easy to do. It's something that you need to do, because if you don't check, eventually your saw chain won't cut. That's just something that you need to do occasionally. When I say occasionally, every 3rd or 4th time that you sharpen your chain, bring this out and just run it over the top with a file like that. Now, buy yourself one of these. You'll get them at a steel dealer, and buy yourself a file with a little wooden handle on it like that. So they're the 2 tools that you need to check. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.